Welcome. We are embarking on an in-depth analysis of a true American icon, a figure whose life was so vast and varied. It sometimes feels like we are looking at 3 or 4 separate careers rolled into one.
It really does.
We are talking, of course, about Paul Leonard Newman.
Mhm.
Born in 1925, he left us in 2008. The amount of source material detailing his life is it's staggering.
It is. It covers everything from his award-winning cinematic performances to, high-level auto racing and truly groundbreaking philanthropy.
That's absolutely right. Newman was monumental, and the material we've gone through really covers the full, incredible arc of his life.
And we're not just, reciting a resume here. We're trying to understand the complexity of balancing those three very different worlds. The high-stakes risk of the racetrack and then the corporate demands of running a massive charitable food company.
Right, and how they all ultimately formed a single, cohesive, and incredibly enduring legacy.
It's almost an impossible stack of accomplishments to grapple with.
It is. And the mission here is to synthesize the breadth of his achievements and structurally try to figure out how this level of sustained excellence across these wildly different fields was even possible. How did one man become equally successful as the ultimate anti-hero on screen? A championship-level race car driver and the founder of a food company Newman's Own that has donated well over $500 million to charity.
To start understanding the engine that drove him, you really have to go back to his formative years. Those early experiences seem to have defined the drive, the sense of otherness, and the profound sense of conviction that fueled him later in life.
Okay, let's unpack this and start with his beginnings. He was born in Cleveland Heights and raised in Shaker Heights, Ohio. So a Midwestern background.
Exactly. This was hardly a traditional pathway to stardom. His father, Arthur Sigmund Newman Sr., ran a successful sporting goods store.
Which suggests a solid, maybe athletic upbringing.
A stable, middle-class upbringing for sure, but the theatrical bent, that appeared really early on. He wasn't a late bloomer in that respect.
How early are we talking?
At just 10 years old, he was already performing at the Cleveland Playhouse in a production called St. George and the Dragon.
Wow. So the seed was planted very early.
It was, and he pursued this passion academically. He served in the Navy, which we'll get to, and then earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in both drama and economics from Kenyon College in 1949.
That combination, drama and economics, it's fascinating, almost a precursor to his later career.
It really is. Merging the art of performance with the business sense required to build a massive charitable empire.
And he didn't stop there, did he? He went on to hone his craft at some very prestigious institutions.
Right. After college, he studied at the Yale School of Drama and, crucially, at the Actors Studio in New York under Lee Strasberg. This was vital.
Because that's the home of method acting.
Exactly. That intense, emotionally driven style where actors draw deeply on personal experiences and emotional memory to inhabit a role, that discipline became central to his craft.
It's clear from the sources that his sense of identity was also shaped very early on by a complex heritage.
It was a very complex identity landscape. His father was of Hungarian Jewish and Polish Jewish descent, making Paul Newman half Jewish. His mother was a Christian Scientist who was born to a Roman Catholic family in what is now Slovakia.
So growing up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, with that background must have been interesting.
He recounted having a very strong sense of otherness as a youth because of it. He noted that this feeling hurt me and my brother a great deal.
He mentioned a specific incident, right?
Yes. He specifically recalled the painful experience of being excluded from a high school fraternity because he was half Jewish.
And that experience, that feeling of being an outsider looking in, it really seems to be the crucible that forged the conviction we see defining his entire career.
It absolutely became a defining characteristic. The sources mention an anecdote where he later referred to himself as a Jew simply because, as he put it, it presented more of a challenge.
That's a choice rooted in defiance, not just lineage.
Precisely. And that refusal to back down carried over into his professional life even before he was famous.
You're talking about the pressure to change his name.
Exactly. When he was advised by an associate to get rid of Paul Newman because it sounded too common or too ethnic, he just refused.
He had a great line, didn't he?
He reportedly quipped, "What do you want me to change it to, SP Newman?" It's a powerful, early demonstration of his refusal to compromise his identity for Hollywood.
But before he could apply that authenticity to acting, there was this pivotal, life-altering experience during World War II, an unbelievable twist of fate.
The military experience in the U.S. Navy is absolutely crucial to understanding him. He initially enrolled in the V-12 pilot training program at Yale.
But that didn't work out.
No, his pilot training dream was dropped after he was diagnosed with colorblindness. He also later admitted he struggled with the math required. He ultimately qualified as an aviation radioman third class and a turret gunner.
And the twist of fate occurs just as his unit was scheduled to deploy to the Pacific.
Yes, they were scheduled to fly to the aircraft carrier Bunker Hill just before the Battle of Okinawa.
And what happened?
It was just sheer life-saving luck. Newman was grounded because the pilot of his aircraft suffered from an earache.
Just an earache.
Just an earache. It took him and the rest of the crew out of commission at the very last moment. The rest of their squadron flew ahead to the Bunker Hill.
And the carrier was attacked?
Shortly thereafter, it was hit by 2 successive kamikaze attacks, a tragic event that killed several hundred crewmen, including other members of Newman's unit.
To survive that, because of something so random, it must instill a profound sense of purpose, maybe even guilt. It's the ultimate second chance.
It fundamentally changes how you view risk and opportunity. He himself later drew on this immense trauma, using it as an emotional trigger for a role in the 1956 film The Rack.
So that intensity and refusal to compromise now moves from the Navy to New York. The war is over, his education is complete.
Then he transitions to the New York stage. He makes his Broadway debut in the original production of William Inge's Picnic in 1953.
And that stage was pivotal for him, both professionally and personally.
It was. It's where he first met actress Joanne Woodward. But his first film career, that was a very different story.
The Silver Chalice.
His first Hollywood film in 1954. It was such a spectacular box office failure that Newman famously expressed his disdain for it later.
Taking out ads, telling people not to see it when it aired on TV.
Right, so he had to find a different route to success. And the real springboard came directly from the tragic early death of another rising star.
James Dean.
That connection is critical. Following Dean's shocking death in 1955, Hollywood needed a new anti-hero, someone with that same raw intensity.
And Newman was positioned perfectly to fill that void.
He secured the lead role as the boxer Rocky Graziano in Somebody Up There Likes Me. That was a role initially planned for Dean.
And that was his true breakthrough.
It was. It transformed him from a failed actor in a Roman sandal flop to a credible leading man.
And it wasn't just the one role, was it?
No, he also took a role originally earmarked for Dean in The Left-Handed Gun, where he played Billy the Kid. This chain of events just rapidly accelerated his ascent to stardom.
His star power was confirmed pretty quickly after that. By 1958, he's starring opposite Elizabeth Taylor in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
And earning his first Academy Award nomination. 1958 was arguably the most formative year of his adult life.
Professionally and personally.
Absolutely. He starred in The Long Hot Summer with Joanne Woodward, whom he reconnected with. He won Best Actor at Cannes for that performance.
And that's the year he married her.
Yes. He divorced his first wife, Jackie Witt, and married Woodward, beginning one of Hollywood's most enduring and respected unions.
A 50-year marriage. It's a rarity in any profession, let alone Hollywood. What do the sources say was their secret?
Well, it seems to be a very deliberate choice to prioritize their private life and their creative relationship over the demands of the Hollywood system.
They collaborated a lot.
A massive amount.
Yeah.
They co-starred in a total of 16 films together and were jointly recognized with the Kennedy Center Honors in 1992.
But the choice to step away from the center of celebrity culture seems to be the most important factor.
It was crucial. They made a deliberate choice early on to raise their family in Westport, Connecticut, outside the relentless glare of the California spotlight.
He had that legendary quote about fidelity.
He did. The famous, "Why go out for a hamburger when you have steak at home?" But beyond the quip, he also attributed their success to some combination of lust and respect and patience and determination.
It wasn't just luck, it was work.
It was work. And speaking of creative partnership, he quickly moved beyond just acting with her and into the director's chair.
Right, for Rachel in 1968.
Starring Woodward. And interestingly, according to Woodward herself, Newman only agreed to direct it because she couldn't find anyone else for the project.
And it was a huge critical success.
A huge success. He earned a Golden Globe for Best Director, multiple Oscar nominations, including one for Best Picture.
That desire for creative control.
Yeah.
It's a theme that we see repeated.
Absolutely. It led him to co-found First Artists Production Company in 1969 with Barbra Streisand and Sidney Poitier.
Which was revolutionary at the time.
It was. It was designing to allow major actors greater creative and financial control over their projects, an anti-establishment move, really.
Which sets the stage perfectly for his most iconic cinematic roles, the ones that define the anti-hero of the 60s and 70s. Let's start with The Hustler.
The Hustler in 1961. He played Fast Eddie Felson, a small-time pool hustler. The film cemented his status as a leading man who could portray morally ambiguous characters.
The charming rogue.
Exactly. It brought him a BAFTA award and really significant critical recognition.
Then came the roles that really challenged the establishment, defining the counterculture mood of the decade.
Cool Hand Luke, 1967. That is the quintessential example. Newman plays a decorated war veteran turned chain gang inmate who refuses to be broken.
It's preserved in the National Film Registry.
It is. The character embodied defiance against meaningless authority. It's famous for its moments of extreme physical effort, too.
The egg-eating scene.
That scene is legendary. Luke takes a bet he can eat 50 hard-boiled eggs in an hour. It's a feat of extreme physical acting that symbolizes his sheer, almost pointless willpower.
And this commitment to the difficult character led directly to the partnership that really defined his career for a generation.
The collaboration with Robert Redford and director George Roy Hill. It began with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, a massive hit.
The chemistry with Redford was just electric.
Perfect. Newman's playful defiance and Redford's cool intensity. It's an interesting detail that Newman initially thought he'd play the Sundance role.
But he ended up as Butch, and it was a landmark moment for him financially as well.
Absolutely. He was able to negotiate a percentage of the profits, and even in the lighthearted moments, his dedication showed. He insisted on performing his own bicycle tricks for the raindrop sequence.
Well, after the hired stuntman couldn't get it right.
Exactly. Then they successfully reunited 4 years later for The Sting.
Another colossal hit, won Best Picture.
And it made him one of the highest paid and most powerful actors in Hollywood. He got top billing, $500,000 up front, and again, a percentage of the gross.
And his willingness to take personal risks on screen, which we linked back to the Bunker Hill incident, that continued well into his superstar phase.
It did. A year later, in The Towering Inferno, he earned a staggering $1 million plus a percentage of the gross.
And he still insisted on doing his own stunts.
Yes. The character of the antihero, the man who risks everything. It wasn't just something he acted, it was something he seemed to live.
Even as he entered the later stage of his career, he wasn't afraid to step outside his comfort zone.
A great example is Slapshot in 1977. This hockey comedy got mixed reviews at first, mostly for its language.
But it became a huge cult classic.
It did, especially through home video. It shows his willingness to embrace different material, always delivering a compelling performance.
And this sustained quality eventually leads to that long-awaited recognition from the Academy.
That dry spell lasted decades. His performance in The Verdict in 1982, playing a washed-up alcoholic lawyer,
earned him universal acclaim, another Oscar nomination.
Roger Ebert praised it as one of his great performances, describing Newman as looking old, bone-tired, hungover, trembling, and heroic.
He received an honorary Oscar in 1986, but he finally clinched the competitive one later that same year.
The official win came for The Color of Money, directed by Martin Scorsese. He reprised his role as Fast Eddie Felson 25 years after The Hustler.
Mentoring a young Tom Cruise, it was the perfect crowning moment.
It felt like a Lifetime Achievement Award wrapped in a competitive trophy.
But even after the Oscar, he didn't stop. He continued to work, earning late career nominations.
Indeed. For Nobody's Fool in '94 and his last live-action film, Road to Perdition, in 2002. The consistency and quality, even into his late 70s, were just remarkable.
And his very final role was fittingly tied to his other great passion.
It was a beautiful synergy. His last role was voicing Doc Hudson, the retired race car in the 2006 animated film Cars.
Which brings us perfectly to the other major parts of his life, the speed and the philanthropy. These were two parallel careers that often superseded his acting in terms of personal dedication.
Newman's passion for auto racing began almost accidentally while training for the 1969 film Winning. He discovered a profound talent and love for it.
He said it was the first thing that I ever found I had any grace in.
A surprising admission from an internationally acclaimed actor. He became intensely devoted, competing seriously well into his 80s under the name P.L. Newman.
And you have to get this. His racing wasn't just some hobby.
No, this was serious and competitive. He raced in the Sports Car Club of America, the SCCA, and won 4 national championships.
And he competed on the world stage.
He did. In 1979, at age 54, he competed in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, finishing an incredible second place overall and first in his class.
That's an elite world-class performance.
And his longevity in the sport is record-breaking. He holds the record as the oldest driver to be part of a winning team in a major sanctioned race.
What was that?
At 70 years and 8 days old, he won his class at the 1995 24 Hours of Daytona. He also co-founded Newman Haas Racing, an 8-time championship-winning team.
To maintain that edge across 5 decades, while also acting and starting a charity, it speaks to an almost frightening level of focus.
Yeah.
Shift to that charity Newman's Own.
Newman's Own, founded in 1982 with A.E. Hotchner, is arguably his most important achievement. The initial idea was simple: bottling his homemade salad dressing.
But the business model was unprecedented.
Revolutionary. They established a policy to donate 100% of post-tax profits and royalties to charity.
A staggering commitment that reframes the whole purpose of a corporation. How successful was it?
Phenomenally. It started with salad dressing and expanded to pasta sauce, popcorn, everything. As of May 2021, total donations exceeded $570 million US.
Wow.
All dedicated to thousands of nonprofits globally.
So the way they framed it was.
They wrote a memoir called Shameless Exploitation in Pursuit of the Common Good. That title just perfectly sums it up. They were using his fame for maximum charitable output.
And the revenue from Newman's Own funded specific organizations that were dear to his heart.
Yes, 2 major initiatives. First was the Serious Fun Children's Network, established in 1988, which began with the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp.
Named after his film.
Right. These camps provide free, specialized, recreational experiences for children with serious illnesses.
And the second major initiative focused on a global issue.
That was the Safe Water Network, co-founded in 2006. It focuses on developing sustainable, community-level solutions to improve access to safe water in developing countries.
And finally, in this section, we should touch on his explicit and often defiant political engagement.
He was a lifelong Democrat, though he wasn't rigidly partisan. He supported independent John B. Anderson in 1980.
His opposition to the Vietnam War and support for Eugene McCarthy earned him a rather unusual place in history.
Indeed. He famously claimed his greatest accomplishment was being placed 19th on President Richard Nixon's infamous enemies list.
For someone who played anti-establishment figures, that must have been a point of deep pride.
It was.
Yeah.
And beyond traditional politics, he was a vocal supporter of gay rights and same-sex marriage, which was ahead of its time for a major celebrity.
His life was marked by these incredible highs, but it was also tempered by significant personal sorrow and loss.
That is unfortunately true, and it adds immense weight to his philanthropic work. We have to discuss the immense personal tragedy of losing his only son from his first marriage, Scott Newman.
Scott had followed his father into acting.
Yes, he appeared in films like The Towering Inferno. He died from a drug overdose in November 1978. This loss was devastating for Newman.
It's clear that the grief he felt was immediately channeled into action.
He acted immediately. Following Scott's death, Newman founded the Scott Newman Center for Drug Abuse Prevention in his son's memory. He turned that personal pain into public good.
And that dedication to substance abuse prevention became a central focus for him.
Absolutely. It directly influenced his later decisions about his public image.
So after his Oscar, the success of Newman's Own, his final racing, he eventually decided to step away from acting entirely.
He retired in May 2007. His reasoning was stated very clearly and humbly. You start to lose your memory, you start to lose your confidence. So I think that's pretty much a closed book for me.
He felt he could no longer perform with the integrity he demanded of himself.
Exactly. He died just over a year later, on September 26, 2008, at his home in Westport, Connecticut, at the age of 83, following a battle with lung cancer.
There's an interesting postscript about his legacy that ties back directly to his son and his focus on substance abuse prevention.
That would be the tradition known as Newman Day. It's a notorious drinking ritual at several colleges, often involving drinking 24 beers in 24 hours.
And given his dedication to the Scott Newman Center, he actively sought to dissociate his name from this.
Yes. In 2004, he formally requested that Princeton and other schools dissociate the event from his name. He cited the fact that he absolutely did not endorse the behavior. It shows the depth of his commitment to his son's memory.
It's clear the man was a force of nature. The 2022 docuseries, The Last Movie Stars, based on tapes for his memoir, provides a fitting, complex tribute to his life.
When you look at Paul Newman, the key synthesis is this. He achieved excellence in acting by drawing on his deepest vulnerabilities, He demonstrated championship quality in a dangerous sport, and yet he devoted the highest level of business ingenuity and massive personal wealth to the common good.
His life was defined by a commitment to authenticity and a refusal to be constrained by simple labels.
Whether he was channeling an anti-hero on screen, pushing a Porsche to its limits at Le Mans, or directing profits to charity, the underlying principle was the same: intense focus, absolute conviction, and integrity.
Which brings us back to our original question about the engine driving him, and the final thought. Paul Newman once said, "I never met anyone who had as much to lose as I did," in reference to his fidelity. Considering his immense success across multiple domains, and knowing the profound losses he suffered, how much of his incredible dedication to philanthropy was ultimately driven by a sense of accountability tied to that immense fortune and the deeply personal tragedies he endured?
A profound question for sure. His life certainly suggests that for him, greatness required not just taking opportunities, but understanding and accepting the immense responsibility that came with them. He understood the value of his second chance.
Something to reflect on as you go about your day. Thanks for listening.